Well, hello. It is Wednesday, and unfortunately, I can't be with you today, but I can teach you. So, you picked up these notes off the Wednesday shelf, finding equations of lines. We're going to get started. This warm up is straight from a review from the ideas on your quiz yesterday. Will you look at each one of these graphs? Will you state the equation of the line graph? And we look at B, D, and F with the slope and y-intercept given in each. Will you go ahead and hit pause on the video, try to find these answers, and then come right back and unpause, and I'll go through the answers. Okay, so when we look at this graph right here, we should notice first of all that I can easily identify my y-intercept as 1. And I can then, from that y-intercept, find another place where it clearly hits one of the crosshairs. And I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1, 2. My slope is rise over run, up 4 over 2 for a simplified slope of 2. My equation is y equals 2x plus 1. I'm going to jump down to this one because I think these are less intimidating usually. Here my y-intercept is 4. I find another point clearly on the graph. Notice that my slope is negative because if you use your right arm, you can tell this is going down. Then I go down 1 and over 2. My equation here is y equals negative 1/2 x plus 4. And then here with my horizontal line, I actually can use my y-intercept here. My y-intercept is negative 5, and I could state that my slope is 0 rise over a bunch of run. You can put any number there, it doesn't hurt. Point is that that slope is 0. So I could start by writing y equals 0x minus 5, but that simplifies to just y equals negative 5. It might help if you box these in just so that you know what the final answer is on each of these. Sorry, my hand slipped. This slope and y-intercept is given, so I can just jump to this answer. Y equals 1/2 x minus 12. Done. Notice here, be really careful. That y-intercept is given first. That's my b. This is my slope. Y equals negative 3x. This is going to drop in here, plus 4. That's going to drop there. And then notice, this gives us a little preview for where we're headed today. My slope is given. I can jump into that part of the equation. And then even though this ordered pair is given as 0, negative 4, because my x value is 0, my negative 4 is my y-intercept. Now that leads us then, go ahead and turn the page for me, to this concept. What if I'm given the slope and the point and I don't see that that's a y-intercept? What do I do? Well, what I'm going to now talk through is the idea that my slope-intercept form allows me to consider both this a slope, which is easy to plug in because I know it's my m, but this point is an ordered pair x, y. So if what I'm concerned with is that I might forget that that's just a y-intercept that I can plug in, instead I can plug in 0 for x. So notice I take x equals 0, here's x, I put in 0. I know y is negative 4. Is that looking a little blurry for you? Let's try that. I know y is negative 4, so I can put in negative 4 here. And then I can solve for b. So I have negative 4 equals 0 plus b. b is negative 4. Now I could write my equation. Now you may be like, hey, isn't that what we just wrote? Y equals negative 3/4 x minus 4. Yes, for sure. Let's remind ourselves quickly how to graph, and then we're going to try one that's a little harder. So when we graph, we start at the very beginning. So I'm going to go to my b value. My b is negative 4. That's the point of the song, right? Let's start at the very beginning, b, beginning. So I'm going to plot that y-intercept first, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then if I'm using my right arm, here's my negative slope. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2, 3, 4 to get my graphed line. So what if it is a point that is not my y-intercept? Well, we can reference these exact steps. So what does that look like? Well, if I say, hey, my slope-intercept form looks like this. My slope is 2. Done. But this point is still an x and a y. So I can stick -3 in for x and 5 in for y. And I get 5 equals, this value is -6 plus b. Super simple equation to solve. Add 6 to both sides. b equals 11. My equation of my line is y equals 2x plus 11. Now notice I'm not finished until I find the equation. My goal is to find that equation. So in this case, you may be like, well, okay, I would have just seen that that was the y-intercept. Well, then in that case, you could have just jumped to this equation. But in this case, you can't jump to that equation until you plug this point in for x and for y, and then solve for b to get my final answer. So you might want to rewind now and then rewatch, which is good and helpful. Or if you're ready, go ahead and use these as reference, hit pause, and then work your way through these 4 examples. Okay, so these are going to go hopefully a little bit faster. We're going to go y equals mx plus b. Notice I stick in -5 for m. This is an x and a y. I stick in 2 for x and -1 for y. This is -1 equals -10 plus b. If I add 10 to both sides, b equals 9. So my final equation is y equals -5x plus 9. Okay, now you may look at this and be like, now how am I supposed to graph this? Well, we've got other ways to graph. We could start at the very beginning where my y-intercept is my first point, but look, I don't have enough graph for this. But when I start at the very beginning, if I don't have a y-intercept, I do have an ordered pair. And once I have that ordered pair, I can say, okay, here's essentially my right arm. This is my negative slope. I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. Here is my graph. We're going to go even a little faster here. We're going to go y equals mx plus b. My m is 2/7. My point here is an x and a y, 14 for x, -1 for y, plus b. Please use your calculator if you're not confident with this. This ends up being 4 plus b, subtract 4, b equals -5. Final answer, y equals 2/7 x minus 5. Here we go. Y equals mx plus b. Notice every single time I write the general equation, I plunk, that's a very technical word, I plunk -4 in for m. This one is trickier because you're like, wait a second. What do you mean an x-intercept? Well, then we got to pause. Where is an x-intercept on my graph? Okay, it's on the x-axis. So if I have an x-intercept at 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, don't I have an ordered pair? That ordered pair is 6, 0. My x is 6. My y is 0 plus b. 0 equals -24 plus b, add 24 to both sides. b equals 24, sorry, I only have one hand to hold the paper and my phone. Y equals -4x plus 24. And last one in this section, we've got a slope of 0. Now some of you may be like, hey, didn't we do stuff like this in our other notes? We sure did. Here's the ordered pair over 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here's 8, 7. Slope of 0 is 0 rise, no run. Isn't that just a horizontal line at y equals 7? Yes, it is. But let's say you're like, hey, I would never see that. Then we go through the same process we've been going through. Write the general equation. Stick in 0 for m. Stick in 8 for x. Stick in 7 for y. Plus b. 0 times 8 is 0. What is b? 7 equals b. So y equals 0x plus 7. That simplifies to y equals 7. Now, excuse me, tomorrow when we're together, we're going to do the in real life because I don't want a video to teach you the word problems. So for now, we're going to jump to this next page. Look at this question. Read that to yourself. What is different about this equation? What is different about this equation? So what you ideally notice is there is no slope given. So because there is no slope given, I have to find my slope. Now, you may be like, but there is a y-intercept. If you see that that's a y-intercept, if I were with you, I'd say raise your hand. But if you see that that's a y-intercept, awesome. But you don't even have to see that. But what you do need to notice is, oh gosh, I have no slope. And yet from your quiz yesterday, you know how to find the slope between 2 points. What is slope? Well, slope we know is rise over run. That's change in y's over change in x. How do you find change? Through the process of subtraction. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I can do, if I need to, I label these x1, y1, 0, 6 will be x2, y2. I can then do 6 minus negative 5 over 0 minus 11. 6 minus negative 5 actually becomes 6 plus 5 over negative 11. That's 11 over negative 11, which is negative 1. Now, in reality, I have a slope of negative 1, and I have, if you're really good at seeing this, a y-intercept. So what some of you may say, hey, if I know that this is a y-intercept, and just as a quick reminder in case that's throwing you off when I say that, the reason we know this is a y-intercept is because my x value is 0, meaning I'm on that y-axis. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my y-intercept. So I then have y equals negative 1x plus 6. Technically, I'm done. But if you're like, you know what, I wouldn't see that. Well, no big deal. Jot down the original formula. Y equals the original equation for slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. I stick in negative 1. I stick in either one of these. Now, why do I know either one would work? Just to prove that it works. We know 6 is my y-intercept, but let's say I stuck in 11 instead. Let's say instead I stuck in 11. Watch what happens. Negative 5 equals negative 11 plus b. I'm going to add 11 here, add 11 here. B equals 6. So in reality, here is my equation. So you have y equals negative x plus 6 as your final equation. Either way, whether I just know that that's my y-intercept or I know that I'm sticking in 11, negative 5. Okay, we're going to do 2 more, and then you're going to hit pause and practice. So we're going to do negative 2, negative 4, 316. What do you notice? Now, ideally, by now you should be like, okay, I recognize that there's no slope, so we need to find the slope. How do I find the slope? y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. 16 minus negative 4, you're welcome to use your calculator, is 20. 3 minus negative 2 is 5. 20 over 5 is 4. Does it matter which point I pick? It does not. Why? Because they're both on the line. So I say fine, y equals mx plus b is my general form. I don't have my b, therefore I'm going to stick in my slope, stick in my x, stick in my y, because I chose this point right there. Could you have picked this point? Yes. Why? Because they're both on the line. So then I solve for b. This is negative 4 equals negative 8 plus b. Add 8 to both sides. b equals 4. Final answer. Y equals 4x plus 4. We're going to do one more together, and then you're going to pause, hit pause, and try these. We're going to go with my finding my slope first, m equals. And if you really are one of those people who you're like, I screw up the slope, then off to the side, get in the habit of writing what slope is. Slope is rise over run. And then write, what is rise over run? Change in y over change in x. The more times you write this, the better off you're going to be. This is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So this, I can label this x1, y1. I can label this x2, y2. this is going to be 3 minus negative 10 over negative 3 minus 5. 3 minus negative 10 over negative 3 minus 5. 3 minus negative becomes positive 13. Negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. And you may be looking at this and saying, ugh, these are yucky, yucky fractions. They absolutely are, because fractions are fun. So what do we now have to do? Well, we're going to probably need our calculator. So we're going to go ahead and pick either one of these points. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to go, I'll just pick the first one. Y equals mx plus b. I'm going to stick in negative 13/8. I'm sticking in 5 and negative 10. This is negative 10 equals, well, this is negative 60 over 8. Now that's not a fraction that I love, but that's the beauty of your calculators. So just have that in mind. I'm actually doing that. You can either reduce this if you want to. You're welcome to do that. You're also welcome to just put it in your calculator just like this. Just make sure you put 68ths in parentheses. So when I solve for b here, I've got essentially negative 88 plus 68 is negative 28. That reduces to, divide both of these by 4. Sorry, I had to think about it there for a second. That is negative 5 over 2. This final answer is negative 13/8x minus 5/2. Oops, sorry. There is my final answer. Now you may not like that because you may be like, I hate these fractions. Totally get that, but you can use your calculator to help you, okay? All right, go ahead and hit pause. And to finish off the video, you only need to do, it's already been a 15-minute video, so I don't wanna overwhelm you with too much more stuff. Go ahead and finish these 4. This is gonna be, if you are in 6th period, I'm gonna explain to you what your homework is, but then Mr. Wilson is actually going to go through these with you during 7th period. If you are in 8th period, then I will go through this with you tomorrow when I'm with you 7th. So I'm going to do 2 more after you hit pause. So hit pause now, and I will go through the first 2 together. Okay, so the last ones that we're going to do together, we're going to warm up with these 2 tomorrow. Here we go. I'm missing my slope. I'm going to go negative 7 minus 2 over 0 minus 9. This is negative 9 over negative 9 equals 1. My slope is 1. Check that order pair out. That is my y-intercept. Answer, y equals 1x minus 7. Done. Here, missing my slope, negative 5 minus 4 over negative 2 minus 1. Negative 5 minus 4 again is negative 9, but this time it's over negative 3. That simplifies to 3. I don't have my y-intercept this time, so I'm going to say y equals mx plus b is my general. I'm going to substitute in my slope, and then I'm going to pick a point. If you're ever struggling with which point to pick, the less negatives you deal with, the less likely you're to make mistakes. So I'm going to put in 4 for y. This is 3 times 1 plus b. 4 equals 3 plus b. Subtract 3. b equals 1. Final answer here, y equals 3x plus 1. So you're welcome to ask Mr. Wilson about these when he comes in 7th period. In the meantime, your homework is going to be from the worksheet that you picked up off the Wednesday shelf. It's posted on Schoology. Thanks for hanging in there with this video, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks.